On April 25, 2026, a man armed with a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives charged through a security checkpoint at the Washington Hilton Hotel during the White House Correspondents' Dinner, where President Donald Trump and dozens of senior government officials were seated. Security camera footage posted by Trump on Truth Social shows the suspect sprinting through the metal detector area and past armed officers, and that footage, along with videos from inside the chaotic ballroom and details about the shooter's life, has now spread across every corner of the internet. So here's how a 31-year-old teacher and video game developer from Torrance, California, ended up charging toward a room full of the most protected people on American soil. On the evening of Saturday, April 25, 2026, approximately 2,600 guests gathered in the basement ballroom of the Washington Hilton Hotel in Washington, D.C. for the annual White House Correspondents' Association dinner. This was the first White House Correspondents' dinner Trump attended as a sitting president. He had declined every invitation during his first term. Now, in his second term, he finally showed up, and he brought nearly his entire cabinet. The event attracted approximately 2,600 attendees, including senior administration officials, such as Vice President Vance, FBI Director Kash Patel, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Secretary of State Marco Rubio, and EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin. Security at the event was described by former FBI Deputy Director Andrew McCabe as almost on the level of a national security event, given the concentration of senior government officials in one location. It was just after 8:30 p.m. Plates were being served. The president sat at the head table alongside First Lady Melania Trump, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, and WHCA President Weijia Jiang. Guests were about 5 minutes into the dinner hour when a commotion could be heard. Toward the back of the ballroom, then everything changed. At approximately 8:40 p.m. EDT, the suspect was confronted by security near the main magnetometer screening area of the Washington Hilton while dinner was being served inside the main ballroom. He ran past the security checkpoint and fired at least one shot. He was chased and subsequently apprehended. Inside the ballroom, several U.S. Secret Service agents yelled, "Shots fired." According to pool reports, what followed was a scene unlike anything the White House Correspondents' Dinner had ever witnessed. A chaotic scene unfolded inside the Washington Hilton Hotel ballroom. Officers in tactical gear with long guns jumped over tables, brandishing their weapons as the president and other dignitaries, such as Vice President J.D. Vance, were rushed from the stage. Attendees ducked under their tables. President Donald Trump was swiftly escorted off the stage by Secret Service. After possible shots were fired, Vice President J.D. Vance and several members of Trump's cabinet, who were also in attendance, were also rushed out. Secretary of Health and Human Services Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was rushed out by Secret Service agents as well. House Speaker Mike Johnson was also evacuated as the shooter opened fire. Outside the ballroom, the scene was even more intense. CNN anchor Wolf Blitzer, who was outside the main ballroom at the time, reported being only a few feet away from the gunman when the shots were fired. Blitzer later described the ordeal as terrifying, hearing the gunshots ring out, with no idea who the shooter was aiming at. The footage from inside the venue, shaky cell phone recordings, capturing the moment Secret Service agents swarmed the head table. The sounds of commands being shouted over clinking glasses and screams spread online within minutes. But it was a different piece of footage that truly sent the internet into overdrive. President Trump himself posted security camera footage on Truth Social, showing the suspect sprinting down a corridor, blowing past multiple armed officers. The president shared a video on Truth Social of the incident. It shows a person running through a hallway where several security personnel are standing. 7 law enforcement personnel were seen drawing their guns and charging after him. Trump also posted photos of the suspect lying face down on the ground, shirtless, surrounded by agents. Within hours, millions of people had watched the footage. The internet now had a face and a name, and the questions began to pile up. Who was this man? How did he get inside the building? What was he trying to do? And why? The man suspected of opening fire at the White House Correspondents' Association dinner on Saturday night worked as a teacher and video game developer from Southern California. According to public records, by any conventional measure, Cole Allen's life trajectory before that Saturday night appeared to be the story of a high-achieving, intellectually gifted young man on a promising path. According to his LinkedIn profile and online records, Allen's life and career trace an accomplished path as a computer scientist, engineer, and independent game developer. In September 2013, he enrolled in the highly competitive California Institute of Technology, known as Caltech, to pursue a BS in mechanical engineering, graduating in 2017. Caltech confirmed to Fox News Digital that a student named Cole Allen graduated from the school in 2017. Caltech is one of the most selective universities on the planet. Getting in there is something that marks you as a particular kind of intellect. Allen fit the profile. In the summer of 2014, he landed a competitive spot as a summer undergraduate research student fellow at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, where he contributed to astrophysics research. At a place like JPL, surrounded by scientists who design missions to Mars, Allen was working on the frontier of space exploration as a teenager. He was also building things of his own. That summer, his profile says, he created First Law, a physics-based role-playing shooter game based on realistic two-dimensional space combat. He later made Boredom, a complex 2D physics-based video game that he described as a combination of a racing game with a bullet hell, as experienced by self-propelled pinballs. Released on the popular Steam gaming platform, these weren't idle hobby projects. They reflected a mind that was deeply engaged with physics, engineering, and computation. As a student at Caltech, Allen was featured in a local news report in 2017 for developing a prototype emergency brake for wheelchairs. That's the kind of project designed to help vulnerable people, the elderly, the disabled. It's a detail that makes the later events that much harder to reconcile. While at Caltech, he was a member of the school's Christian Fellowship and the Nerf Club. According to his LinkedIn profile, he was featured in a Caltech graduation announcement posted by the university in 2017 on Facebook, which included a picture of him as an adult wearing a cardigan and a photo of him as a beaming young child holding a stuffed bunny. After graduation, Allen worked for a year as a mechanical engineer before becoming an independent video game developer, and later also a part-time teacher at a company dedicated to helping high schoolers get into college. According to his LinkedIn profile, a LinkedIn profile matching Allen's name and photo described him as a part-time teacher at C2 Education, a test prep and tutoring company, according to social media posts from the company. Teacher of the Month. 14 months before he walked into the Washington Hilton, carrying a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives. He later went back to school, beginning in March 2020. His LinkedIn profile says he enrolled at California State University, Dominguez Hills, in 2022 to pursue an MS in computer science, graduating in May 2025. A former high school volleyball teammate described Allen as a borderline genius and super stable. The teammates said they lost touch with Allen once he went off to Caltech, but expressed surprise that he would be the suspect in Saturday's attack. He was probably the most gentle person on the team, which makes it even more shocking that he did this, the ex-teammate said. The portrait emerging from the wreckage of that evening is one that the internet has been grappling with furiously. The sheer dissonance between the quiet, brilliant tutor with a Caltech pedigree and a LinkedIn full of achievements, and the man caught on camera, sprinting toward a room containing the President of the United States with an arsenal of weapons. To fully understand what happened that night at the Washington Hilton, you have to understand the layout of the venue itself. Generally, the Hilton Hotel, where the dinner has taken place for years, remains open to regular guests during the correspondence dinner, and security has typically been focused on the ballroom rather than the hotel at large, with little screening for people not entering the dinner itself. That detail is critical. Jeffrey W. Carroll, the interim chief of police of the Metropolitan Police Department, said preliminary evidence shows the suspect was a guest at the hotel where the dinner was being held. Allen had a room. He was already inside the building. He didn't need to break in. He had a key card. That's how he apparently entered the hotel at a time when the most heavily guarded dinner in America was taking place one floor below. Allen reportedly assembled a long weapon in an unsecured back room before opening fire near the magnetometer screening area. Think about what that means. He checked into the hotel. He had components of his weapons with him. He found a space where he could assemble a shotgun without being noticed. And then he moved. Security camera footage released by Trump on social media shortly after the incident shows the suspect running past security officers who appear to be disassembling the metal detectors. This moment, captured on camera and now viewed by millions around the world, is what turned the footage viral. It raised immediate and uncomfortable questions about the apparent vulnerability of the checkpoint. At that precise moment, the attacker was armed with a shotgun, a handgun, and multiple knives. When he charged through the security checkpoint, police said he was not trying to sneak. He was not trying to talk his way through. He was running at full speed. Trump himself described the moment at his late-night press conference. He said Allen charged from 50 yards away and that he was really moving. Trump said the suspect charged the checkpoint armed with multiple weapons and was subdued by Secret Service members. He described the suspect as a guy who looked pretty evil and said he was fighting hard while being pinned down by law enforcement. In the security footage, a person can be seen rushing past Secret Service agents down a hallway. Before the agents turn and raise their guns at him, the suspect fired at a Secret Service agent. He shot a Secret Service agent but hit him in his vest, preventing serious injury. The officer was protected by his bulletproof vest. At a news conference at the White House, Trump described the gunman as a lone wolf and said he was taken down by some very brave members of Secret Service. One officer was shot but was protected by a vest, Trump said. The vest did the job, he added. The suspect charged at a Secret Service checkpoint in the hotel's lobby, armed with multiple weapons, D.C. police said. He then exchanged gunfire with law enforcement and was tackled, police said. The suspect was not shot, but taken to a local hospital, police said. The fact that Allen was not killed during the encounter itself became another point of fascination. He exchanged gunfire with agents protecting the President of the United States, struck one of them, and yet was taken alive. A Secret Service agent struck in his bulletproof vest was released from the hospital earlier today. The Secret Service said that a coward attempted to create a national tragedy. They added, he underestimated the protective capabilities of the U.S. Secret Service. Meanwhile, in the ballroom, WHCA President Wei Jiang said law enforcement ordered an immediate evacuation and emphasized that no one inside the main event space was injured. Jiang said the president insists the gathering would be rescheduled within 30 days. And then there was the reaction that broke the internet on its own. UFC boss Dana White, who was sitting right in front of the head table, said he refused to get down when Secret Service agents were telling everyone to take cover. Dana White described the White House correspondent's dinner shooting, saying he refused to get down. Trump remained inside the hotel in a secure area, while officials assessed the situation. He departed the Washington Hilton for the White House at approximately 9:45 p.m. EDT, after law enforcement requested that all attendees leave the venue. What happened next was a press briefing like few others. Trump appeared in the Brady briefing room of the White House, flanked by Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche and other officials. It is always shocking when something like this happens, Trump told reporters. He called Allen a sick person and a whack job. He praised the Secret Service and law enforcement for their response. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said charges related to Saturday night's attack would be filed shortly, and that the nature of the charges would be obvious, considering what had happened at the dinner. Those charges came quickly. Authorities identified the suspect as Cole Thomas Allen. He is in custody and will be charged with using a firearm during a crime of violence and assault on a federal officer using a dangerous weapon. U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro said. She added that many more charges are expected to be filed. This individual was intent on doing as much harm and as much damage as he could. D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser confirmed that Allen acted alone in his attempt to breach the dinner as the legal machinery kicked into gear in Washington, 3,000 miles away in Torrance, California. A different scene was unfolding, could be seen descending on the home, where the alleged suspect is believed to live. Eyewitness news crews on the ground watched as FBI agents arrived. There was a very large law enforcement scene in the residential neighborhood, including FBI agents in tactical gear and armored vehicles. The neighborhood was locked down. Spotlights were aimed at windows, speaking with federal agents on the front porch. Later, it appeared spotlights were focused on a second-story window and the front door. A next-door neighbor who did not wish to be identified told CNN he was not sure if Allen lived at the property. They said they did not see him often, but he was there a couple of days ago. The neighbor said the suspected gunman's father is friendly and chatty. The Torrance mayor responded publicly. Tonight, our community joins the nation in condemning the violent incident that occurred in Washington, D.C. during the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Mayor George K. Chen said his alleged actions do not define our city or the values of its residents. Torrance is a community built on respect, diversity, hard work, and public safety, Chen said. The reaction was global. Prime Minister Mark Carney said he is relieved that the president, the first lady, and all guests are safe. Political violence has no place in any democracy, and my thoughts are with all those who have been shaken by this disturbing event, said Carney. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer said he was shocked by the scenes at the dinner. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen expressed relief for the safety of attendees and thanked police and responders for their swift action. Violence has no place in politics ever, she said. French President Emmanuel Macron said violence had no place in democracy, and India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi sent his best wishes for the safety of Trump, Vance, and the First Lady. Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi said that violence can never be tolerated anywhere in the world. The weight of all those condemnations pouring in from heads of state around the globe underscored just how close this had come. This was not a threat intercepted weeks in advance. This was a man with loaded weapons who made it to within yards of the ballroom, where the president, the vice president, the secretary of state, the FBI director, the House Speaker, and hundreds of others were sitting down to dinner. It was the third time since 2024 that the president had been under threat by an attacker in his immediate vicinity, including the assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania, that injured him and killed a local firefighter. A few months later, in September 2024, authorities said an armed man lay in wait near Trump's golf course. Prosecutors said the suspect, Ryan Routh, spent weeks planning the attack and aimed a rifle through bushes as Trump played golf, but a Secret Service agent spotted him before he could shoot, and he was arrested shortly afterwards. Routh was convicted last year of attempting to kill the president. 3 incidents, 2 terms, 1 president. Each time, the margin between safety and catastrophe measured in seconds and feet. The title of this story begins with footage, and it is the footage that will define the public memory of April 25, 2026, for years to come. There are broadly 3 categories of video that went viral from that night. The first is the security camera footage that Trump posted to Truth Social. Allen is seen sprinting through a security checkpoint, which had a metal detector, and past security guards. The dinner was being held 1 floor below in the ballroom. That clip alone has been viewed tens of millions of times across platforms. It became the defining image of the evening, a lone figure running full speed through a security corridor, while armed agents pivot and give chase. The second set of footage comes from inside the ballroom. Cell phone videos captured by guests show the moment Secret Service agents flooded the room, the moment the head table was cleared, the moment attendees dropped under their tables, as officers with long guns leaped over furniture. These videos were raw and unsteady, the kind of footage that places you inside the panic. The third category is the aftermath footage from Torrance, California. Helicopter shots of FBI agents and armored vehicles. The focus in the early stage of this investigation is on preservation of both physical and digital evidence. Taken together, these 3 categories of video painted a complete arc of the event: the attack, the response, and the investigation. And the internet consumed all of it within hours. But it's the questions embedded in that footage that are now driving the conversation. The Associated Press noted that the lobby of the Washington Hilton regularly remains open to other guests during the dinner, and that security and screening is typically located closer to the ballroom itself. Why were the metal detectors being taken apart at the time Allen charged through? How did a hotel guest assemble a shotgun without detection? Trump later said the venue was not a particularly secure building and used it as support for the existence of the White House ballroom. The motive remains the most glaring open question. No motive has been given, and authorities believe Allen acted alone. Carroll said that he could not say at this point what the shooter's motivation was, and that it is too soon to know who the suspect had intended to target in the shooting. CBS News reported the alleged attacker told authorities he was targeting officials in the Trump administration, but that has not been officially confirmed by investigators. Allen contributed $25 to a Democratic Party political action committee in support of Kamala Harris for president in 2024. According to federal campaign finance records, that single data point, a $25 donation, it is at this point one of the only publicly known details that speaks to any political orientation at all. Trump doubted any connection of the shooter with the 2026 Iran war and said it would not stop him from winning the war in Iran. There is also the haunting historical echo of the location itself. 45 years earlier, John Hinckley Jr. attempted to assassinate Ronald Reagan as he emerged from the same hotel. The Washington Hilton, same building, different decade. A president leaving that hotel was nearly killed in 1981. Now in 2026, a president sitting inside it was once again in the line of fire. Weijia Jiang, the senior White House correspondent at CBS News and president of the White House Correspondents Association, emphasized the public service role of journalism, saying, "When there is an emergency, we run to the crisis, not away from it. On a night when we are thinking about the freedoms in the First Amendment, we must also think about how fragile they are," she said. The dinner was supposed to be a celebration of the free press. It became a crime scene. The footage that went viral, every frame of it, tells the story of how close everything came to being unimaginably worse. A man who, by all available accounts, was brilliant, gentle, and stable, snapped somewhere along the way, traveled cross-country, checked into the same hotel hosting, the most politically powerful gathering in Washington, assembled weapons and charged. The Secret Service stopped him. One agent took a round to the chest and survived because of a vest. The footage shows the speed at which it happened. The footage shows how the agents responded, and the footage is now the lens through which millions of people around the world are processing the fact that the President of the United States came within yards of another attack, the third in 2 years. As this investigation unfolds, more footage and more details will emerge. Pirro said that further information could lead to additional charges. What they find may finally answer the question that the viral footage alone cannot. Why?